It was a mistake. The kind that feels small at first. A pocket dial, a 6-second voicemail. Silence. Some muffled sound. But then, a voice. I don't love him. I haven't for years. I honestly hate him. Click. That was it. That was the entire message. And it broke something in me. I replayed it 12 times, thinking maybe I heard it wrong. Maybe she said, hate this, or hate it. But no. The tone was clear, cold. Like she was saying something she'd repeated in her head 1,000 times, and only just now found the courage to let out. The kicker. The voicemail was time-stamped for 5 minutes before I walked in the door, carrying her favorite Thai takeout and a small box of earrings I'd saved up for over 3 months to buy. She hugged me that night, kissed me, called me her rock, told me how grateful she was, and all I could hear was that sentence looping in my skull like a skipped record. I honestly hate him. You don't come back from that. Not really. I didn't confront her. I didn't even mention it. I just started watching how well she could pretend, watching how easily she lied with her eyes wide open. And then something strange happened. The next night, while she was in the shower, I picked up her phone. I wasn't snooping, not exactly, but the screen lit up with a notification from someone named M. No last name, just M. You free tomorrow night? Same hotel. There was a long thread, photos, messages going back months, entire stories she'd told me. Girls' nights, late shifts, book club, all flipped inside out in seconds. Every detail I'd accepted as truth now felt like part of a script. I sat there, not breathing, while steam crept from the bathroom down the hallway like a ghost. And right then, I made my decision. I wasn't going to fight. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to vanish. But not just physically. I was going to erase myself so completely, so silently, that she would start to doubt whether I was ever real to begin with. Not out of cruelty, not even out of revenge, out of clarity. She wanted a life without me. She was about to get it, and the fallout of that decision was so much bigger than I ever imagined. I didn't run away that night. I waited 5 more days. 5 days of pretending I didn't know. 5 days of smiling through meals, of listening to her talk about her coworkers, of watching her brush her hair in the mirror like nothing was cracking behind the glass. I slept next to her every night, my back turned, staring into the wall, wondering if she knew I knew. But she didn't, because I was good at hiding. Too good. The funny part, I wasn't even angry anymore. I was curious. I had spent so many years giving her every piece of me that I'd forgotten what it was like to withhold. So, I did. I started studying her, like she was a stranger in my house, and the more I paid attention, the more I realized I didn't even recognize the woman I had built my life around. She had tells, little cracks in her performance, a habit of touching her collarbone when she lied, a half-second delay before answering basic questions, and she was always texting. Her phone might as well have been another limb. But she never smiled when she looked at it anymore. No joy, just urgency. On the 5th day, I executed my plan. I left for work like normal, packed my lunch, kissed her on the cheek. I even said, I love you. She said it back without blinking. Then I drove to a storage unit I had secretly rented 30 meters outside the city. Inside was a duffel bag, a burner phone, a prepaid debit card, and a backpack with just enough to live off-grid for a while. I'd been building the kit for months, originally out of some weird survivalist fantasy. Not because I thought I'd use it, but now it had a purpose. That night, I didn't come home. I turned off my real phone and left it in a park near the river. I logged out of every account. No social media, no bank access, no GPS. I became vapor. I took a late-night train out of state and checked into a cheap motel under the name Reed Barrett, a name I hadn't thought about since high school. Someone who used to bully me, believe it or not. I figured it was poetic in a stupid way. And then I waited. No calls, no texts, nothing for 12 hours. And then, boom. Her first call came at 9:41 the next morning. Then 3 more. Then she called my boss, my sister, even an old roommate I hadn't spoken to in years. She started texting frantic things like, "Lol, where are you? This isn't funny. Please just come home. I don't understand what's going on. Are you okay? Just say something. You're scaring me now. Please, please call me." It was wild to watch, like she was unraveling in real time. All this from the woman who told her friend she hated me. Now she was acting like I was oxygen. But I wasn't touched by it, not exactly. I was watching to see when the truth would slip out. And then it did. 2 nights after I vanished, I used a borrowed laptop at a library to check a dummy email I had made years ago, the one I used to register an old ride-sharing account she never knew I could still access. And there it was, a trip receipt. She had taken a ride to a hotel at 10:27 p.m., the same hotel M had mentioned. She wasn't mourning. She wasn't worried. She was meeting him. But this time, I was already there, not in the hotel, but watching from the parking garage across the street. Through binoculars, she never saw me, but I saw everything. From the parking structure across the street, I watched the entrance of the hotel as if it were a stage. My breath fogged the inside of my windshield as I waited. I didn't even know what I was expecting to feel. Rage, heartbreak, maybe some twisted sense of justice. But what I felt more than anything was fascination. Like I had stepped outside my own life and become the director of someone else's unraveling. At 10:43 p.m., she arrived. Ember, wearing a long beige coat I hadn't seen before, heels that clacked with confidence, and hair pulled back into a ponytail like she always did when she wanted to look elegant but effortless. She walked in without looking around, not nervous, not guilty, like it was just another appointment on her calendar. I took a picture. At 10:57, a man followed, tall, athletic, wearing a charcoal suit and a smug face you could spot even from 3 floors up. He tapped his phone at the front desk and got a keycard within seconds. I took another photo. When she came back into the lobby to meet him, she kissed him. Not a hesitant, stolen kiss. A long, slow one, like they'd done it 100 times before. I didn't move. I didn't cry. I just documented because now I wasn't just watching. I was building a timeline. See, I knew something Ember didn't. Our home security system. It saves camera footage to a hidden backup server I installed myself, one she never even knew existed. And if you think she was careful, she wasn't. She brought that man into my house twice, once while I was out of town for a work conference, once while I was working a double shift. I had motion alerts from those days, and now I had the timestamps to prove it. After the hotel, I followed her from a distance over the next several days, not every hour, just enough to trace the pattern. She'd alternate between desperation, sending me dramatic voicemails about being worried sick, and quiet deceit. It was like she thought she had a small window to cover her tracks before the truth surfaced. She started asking my sister if I had a history of depression, told my boss I'd been acting distant lately, planted little seeds to suggest that I might have had some kind of breakdown. It was smart. Honestly, by the time anyone started really questioning her, she would have had her version of the story neatly wrapped in worry and grief. But I wasn't going to let her write the ending. On the 5th day of my disappearance, something strange happened. I was sitting at a train station 2 towns over, drinking burnt coffee and going through screenshots on the burner phone, when a girl sat next to me. Red leather jacket, blue streak in her hair, headphones hanging around her neck like she didn't care if they ever worked again. She looked over, then at the phone, then back at me. "You spying on someone?" she asked, Not accusatory, just amused. I froze. I hadn't spoken to anyone in days. I probably looked like a ghost. But instead of brushing her off, I surprised myself. Kind of, I said. More like documenting a betrayal. She smirked. You one of those Reddit guys? I laughed under my breath. Something like that. She didn't press, just sat with me for a few more minutes. We didn't exchange names. We didn't need to. But before she left, she said, if you're gathering receipts, make sure you don't just survive it. Make sure you own it. And just like that, she was gone. But that sentence stuck in my ribs like a nail. And as I looked back at the folder of videos, texts, security cam stills, and hotel timestamps, I realized something. This wasn't just a betrayal story. It was about to become a case file. And I wasn't just the victim anymore. I was the witness, the collector, the narrator. And Ember. She was about to be exposed to the last person she ever expected. Herself. 3 days after I watched Ember kiss her secret man in the hotel lobby, I decided it was time to tighten the rope. Not around her neck, but around the illusion she had worked so hard to preserve. I wasn't going to expose her in public, not yet. That would be too easy. No, what I needed was quiet chaos. The kind that starts with small tremors, the kind no one sees until the floor collapses. I began by uploading everything I had to a private cloud folder. Every screenshot, every camera feed, still every saved voicemail and chat log. But I didn't send it anywhere. Not yet. I just needed it ready, like a detonator with a delay. The kind of thing that would eventually land right in her lap, and in the inboxes of a few carefully selected people. And then something strange happened. While watching her movements from a nearby cafe, one that overlooked her favorite brunch spot, I saw her sitting outside with her mother. I hadn't expected that. She usually avoided family when things got messy. Her mom, Judith, was all pearls and judgment, not someone who embraced scandal. But here they were, sipping iced coffee like nothing was unraveling under their noses, until Judith reached across the table and touched her hand. And then Ember started crying, not wiping away tears. Crying. Ugly crying. Shoulders shaking, mouth pulled tight like she couldn't stop herself. Her head down as her mother quietly handed her a napkin and whispered something I couldn't hear. I stared at her through the cafe window and felt nothing. Not sympathy, not guilt, just curiosity. Because now I didn't know what story she was telling them. Was she painting herself as abandoned, betrayed? Had she rewritten the entire situation as something I had done? That night, I did something bold. I mailed her a flash drive. No return address, no note, just the drive inside a cheap padded envelope with a single video file labeled, "Until you're honest with yourself." The video was short, just 90 seconds, edited cleanly. It started with her voicemail, the one she left by accident. I honestly hate him. Then cut to a still frame from the security camera in our living room. Ember letting the man inside, pouring him wine, sitting on the couch I had built with my own hands while they laughed about something she'd once said was just between us. The final frame, a photo of her entering the hotel with him, time-stamped with a fade to black. No threats, no name, no context, just undeniable truth. I didn't want to watch her open it. I didn't want to know what face she made. All I cared about was this. Would she finally admit to herself what she was doing? Or would she double down? Turns out Ember wasn't built for exposure. 2 days after the flash drive arrived, she took her Instagram account offline. She called out sick from work, and she started texting me again. The real number, the one I hadn't used in weeks. I don't know what's happening. Please talk to me. I'm sorry. Did someone send you something? I can explain. Please don't make this worse than it already is. Just tell me what you want. I'll do anything. It was amazing how quickly the language of control turned into the language of desperation. From silence to begging, from power to panic. She wasn't trying to fix things, she was trying to get ahead of something. But the truth was already faster than her. Because while she was unraveling in her pretty little apartment with her filtered stories and her curated grief, I was preparing something else entirely. A message. A final one. Not to her, to everyone who thought they knew us. The first ripple wasn't dramatic. It came quietly. An old college friend of mine, Aaron, messaged Amber on Facebook. Not a "where is he" message, but something far more unsettling. "Hey, just wanted to say you're in my thoughts. I hope the truth comes out soon." That was all. No context, no accusation, but that one sentence cracked her composure. I knew because I planted it. Aaron and I hadn't spoken in years, but when I explained what I was doing and showed him why, he agreed to be part of it. Not for revenge, not even out of loyalty, but because, in his words, "You've always been the guy people walk over. I think it's time you stood on someone's throat for once." He wasn't wrong. The messages kept coming. Not many, just enough to be noticed. One from an anonymous email. One from her cousin in Portland who I'd quietly informed about the hotel video. One from her hairstylist who'd been with her during one of those fake girls' nights she used as cover. None of them said what exactly they knew, but they all hinted, and that's what made it work. Ember had built her image like a glass sculpture. Beautiful, fragile, precise, and now it had hairline cracks she couldn't find fast enough to repair. I didn't just want her to suffer. I wanted her to question reality. That's what made the next move so satisfying. I scheduled a delivery to our old house. Not flowers, not gifts. A stack of manila envelopes. Inside each one, a printed screenshot of her texts with the man she called M the Kiss in the hotel, and a still frame of her letting him into the house. I mailed 5 copies. One addressed to her, one to her mother, one to her boss, one to the couple who lived across the street, the ones who used to host wine nights, and one, just for flavor, to her favorite yoga studio. The fallout was immediate. She shut down her social media again, changed her number, called my sister 5 times in one morning. I wasn't told everything, but I got a text from my sister that simply said, "Whatever you're doing, it's working." But the most satisfying moment came the next evening. I watched Ember return home from work. Her movements were erratic, panicked. She paused at the porch, saw the final envelope sitting on the mat, and didn't even pick it up. She just stared at it for nearly 3 minutes, frozen. Then she sank down onto the step like her legs gave out beneath her. I wasn't across the street that time. I was parked 2 blocks away, watching from a drone I'd borrowed from Aaron. Discreet. Quiet. I watched her bury her face in her hands and rock slowly forward and back. This wasn't cruelty. This was balance. She had told the world that I disappeared, that I abandoned her, that I was unstable. And now the evidence was turning on her like a silent jury. But here's where things took a turn. Because I knew Ember, she wouldn't break in a dramatic explosion. No, she'd do what manipulators do best. She'd pivot. The next morning, I got an email sent from an address I didn't recognize, but I knew it was her. Subject line, "Let's talk. No cameras, no games." And the message, "You win. I don't know what your goal was, but congratulations. You've ruined me. I hope that makes you feel powerful. I'd like to meet neutral ground. 1 hour, just you and me. You deserve that much." It was bait, obviously, but what Ember didn't realize is I hadn't even started yet. She picked the cafe. Of course she did. Neutral ground, she said, but she chose the exact place where she met that man 6 months ago. The same booth, the same table, the same window overlooking the bookstore across the street. She probably thought I wouldn't notice, or maybe she wanted to control the setting even now. That was Ember's signature move. Wear the mask, choose the stage, script the scene. But I'd burned the script already. I arrived 20 minutes early and sat at a table by the window, not the booth. I wanted light on her face. I wanted to see everything. She walked in at exactly 4 p.m., hair pulled back, sunglasses on even though it was cloudy. No makeup. That was new. Maybe it was for sympathy. Or maybe she was unraveling faster than I thought. She spotted me, hesitated, then walked over. No hug, no smile, just sat down like we were lawyers before arbitration. "I didn't expect you to come," she said. "I know," I replied. "You don't really know me anymore." Silence. She clasped her hands like she was in church. No rings, no jewelry. Her nails were chipped, which told me she hadn't been to her salon in at least a week. She looked exhausted, but I didn't offer her sympathy. I let her sit in it. "I don't know how much you think you know," she started, "but things aren't as simple as they look." I leaned forward slightly. "I'm not here for your version." Her jaw tightened. That hit harder than I expected. "I made mistakes," she said. "No," I corrected her. "You made choices, over and over. This isn't about one voicemail. It's not about one man. It's about who you became while I was busy loving someone who wasn't real." That stung. I saw it in her eyes, but I wasn't done. She looked around as if someone might be watching, then leaned in closer. "If this goes public, if you send more of that stuff to people, it's not just my reputation. It'll affect my job, my family. You really want to humiliate me like that?" I didn't blink. "You humiliated me in private. I just gave you the courtesy of seeing it in reverse." Her voice dropped. "What do you want?" I waited. I let the silence do its work. And then I pulled out a small envelope and slid it across the table. Inside was a printed document. No threats, no legal terms, just one line typed in clean black ink. "I want you to admit in writing that you lied to everyone, that you betrayed me, that you manipulated the people around you to make me disappear so you could play the victim." She didn't even touch it. "You're insane." "No," I said calmly. "I'm awake." She pushed the envelope back. "You think this is justice? You think this will fix something inside you?" "What? You want me to grovel so you can feel powerful for once in your life?" I looked her dead in the eye. "I want you to stop pretending you're the fire. You're the smoke. You cover everything in darkness and pretend you're glowing. But I know what you are now." She stood up abruptly. The chair scraped hard against the tile. A few people looked over. She didn't care. "You ruined me," she hissed. "Congratulations." I smiled for the first time. "No, I revealed you. You ruined yourself." And then I did what I had rehearsed over and over in my mind. I picked up the envelope she refused to touch, tore it neatly in half, and dropped it in my coffee cup. "Consider this mercy," I said. I stood and walked out, left her standing there, shaking with rage or regret. I couldn't tell which, but it didn't matter because now, for the first time in my entire life, I didn't care if she cried. And the best part? The real consequence hadn't even hit her yet. Because the truth wasn't what I had on her. It was who had it next. 3 days passed after the cafe meeting. I didn't reach out. I didn't check on her. I didn't need to. By then, I'd handed the wheel to someone else. Her boss. Not directly, of course. That would have made it too easy to trace back to me. Instead, I used the same anonymous email chain I'd created weeks ago, the one I'd used to send the hotel footage to her yoga studio, her cousin, her stylist. But this time, the contents were different. Curated focused a clean PDF file labeled Internal Character Concerns, containing the exact timeline of her relationship with M, who, surprise, worked at the same company a few levels beneath her in the org chart. I included screen grabs of flirtatious messages sent during work hours, calendar overlaps, email snippets, the security cam footage where she brought him into the house while claiming to be working late. HR poison. I didn't even need to fake anything. I just let the truth sit in their inbox like a dormant virus waiting to be opened. By the next morning, Ember was placed on administrative leave. I know because she called my sister in a panic asking if she'd heard from me. She didn't mention the job, but her voice cracked on every syllable. You could hear the weight of losing control. My sister didn't say much, just told her she hoped Denver was finally being honest. Click. I was in a diner 3 states away when I got the text from a number I hadn't saved in years. And hey, I know this is weird, but I think we need to talk. I stared at it for a long time. He had no idea I had his number. No idea I'd already traced his entire digital signature back to Ember's work friend 2 months ago. I didn't respond. He texted again the next day. She said she was separated. I didn't know, man, I swear. I didn't even know you existed. That was the line that made me laugh out loud, not in bitterness, but in disbelief. That's what I had become. A ghost in my own marriage. An off-screen character in someone else's script. I replied with one sentence. She said the same about you. He never replied again. But what happened next was better than any message. A friend of mine, someone still back home who worked front desk at Ember's company, sent me a photo. It was Ember in the lobby, crying. Security was escorting her out of the building. Apparently, M had been let go too. Internal relationships weren't forbidden, but undisclosed conflicts were. And once HR saw how deeply she manipulated both company resources and timelines to protect the affair, they didn't hesitate. That moment, seeing her walk out of that office in the same blazer she used to brag about during corporate dinners, head down, mascara streaked, it didn't give me satisfaction. It gave me closure. Because it was no longer about revenge. It was about watching someone finally face a version of reality she couldn't bend, couldn't explain away, couldn't talk her way out of. And it didn't end there. The story of Ember's fall started making quiet rounds on social media. Not from me, but from the people who knew pieces of the puzzle and began stitching it together. Her carefully curated Instagram photos, the ones where she played the doting wife, began receiving odd comments. Not cruel, but surgical. Glad to see you're doing okay after everything you put him through. Karma wears red heels too, huh? You were always great at rewriting history. By the end of the week, she deleted the account entirely. No explanation, just vanished. Fitting, I thought, because that's exactly what I did first. Only difference is I left by choice. She was being erased by consequence, and I was almost ready to walk away for good. But not quite. There was still one last thing left to do. One final thread I had to cut, and it wasn't hers. It was mine. The funny thing about freedom is that it doesn't announce itself. There's no blaring trumpet, no grand finale. One day you just realize you've gone 24 hours without thinking about them. Then it becomes 48. Then a week. And eventually you catch your reflection in some storefront window in a city where nobody knows your name, and you realize you look lighter. That's where I was. 3 months had passed since Ember was escorted out of her office. 2 since her family stopped contacting mine, and nearly 1 since I stopped watching. Not because I forgave her, not because she didn't deserve every consequence that came her way, but because I didn't want her taking up space in my story anymore. She had written my absence into her narrative as weakness. But what she never understood is that disappearing wasn't me giving up. It was me unplugging from her chaos so I could hear myself think again. And in that silence, I found something unexpected. Peace. I started working under a different name. Nothing dramatic, just using my middle name and an old email account. Fixed air conditioners during the day, bartended a couple nights a week. I read books without hiding them behind phone screens. I learned to cook things I'd always microwaved. I stopped apologizing for speaking slowly. I stopped apologizing for everything. I even met someone. No, not like that. Not yet. Her name was Tessa. She ran a bookstore near the pier, always smelled like cinnamon and spoke in metaphors. We talked about music and loss, and why people betray each other. Not in the bitter way, but in that soft, curious tone that says, "I've been there too." She never asked about Ember. I never volunteered because Ember wasn't the story anymore. One night, I found myself walking along the beach. It was dusk, a little wind, some gulls, the waves pulling at the shore like they were exhaling for the first time all day. I pulled out my phone, the real one, the one I hadn't used since I left, and stared at the home screen for a long time. There were dozens of voicemails. I didn't listen to any of them. Instead, I opened my contacts, scrolled down to E, and hit delete. That was it. No fireworks, no closure monologue, just one tiny tap. And in that small digital gesture, I felt something loosen in my chest. A knot I didn't realize I'd been living with for years. I looked out at the ocean and smiled. Not because I won, not because she lost, but because I wasn't angry anymore. She had lied. She had cheated. She had rewritten our life like it was a resume. But I had walked away with something she never had. The ability to stand in the wreckage and feel whole again. Not perfect, just whole. So that's my story. The man who disappeared without a fight, only to find that leaving wasn't the end. It was the beginning. I didn't get revenge. I got something better. I got myself back.